So, if you're a Mythical fan like myself, you've probably noticed the massive silence in their videos recently. One of the main voices of the show has left, and with it, ending what was truly a one-of-a-kind run in YouTube history. For her goodbye, they did a very classic GMM-style party episode with fan montages and a song, yada yada. And while all that is still cool, don't get me wrong, it still felt underwhelming. Like, it all felt very rehearsed and almost inauthentic in a way. It was also a split celebration for their 3000th episode. And for someone who's been a huge GMM fan since 2014, I figured I would do the right thing and give Stevie a proper send-off by going over her whole career. What she did for GMM, the Mythical Beasts, and what all of it truly means going forward. So today, please sit back as we look back on Stevie Wynne Levine. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, let me catch you up. Stevie Wynne Levine, born Stephanie Wynne Levine on November 4th, 1987 in Harlan, Texas, didn't exactly have a typical path into becoming one of the most important behind-the-scenes figures in YouTube history. She grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina after her family moved from Texas. She actually attended a tiny private Jewish day school as a young child with only 12 kids in her entire class. But then she moved up to Grimsley High School, a massive public school with around 500 students in her graduating class. That shift from an extremely small, sheltered environment to a huge southern public high school would end up shaping a lot of her personality. Even as a little kid, Stevie was already figuring out that she didn't quite fit the mold people expected. She's openly talked about how, as a toddler and preschooler, she asked her parents to call her Scott because she felt embarrassed about being a girl. She was a self-described tomboy who wore soccer shorts in freezing weather, played with Tonka trucks, and always wanted to be Ken when playing Barbie or the dad when playing house, showing early signs of someone who was already pushing back against traditional gender expectations long before she even had the voice for it. By the time she got to high school, she leaned hard into academics to carve out her own space. She took a heavy load of IB and AP classes and eventually graduated as salutatorian. After high school, she went to Syracuse University for television, radio, and film with a minor in entrepreneurship. After college, she moved out to Los Angeles with a production degree, right in the middle of the post-2008 recession. But instead of using that as an excuse to give up her dreams, she pushed through it. She started with internships and worked her way up through several production roles. She produced at Collective Digital Studios, a former MCN, did work with Red Film Productions, a company best known for their early 2000s raunchy comedies, no wonder she gets along with Rhett Link so well, and served as a production manager at Mondo Media, where she helped oversee 50 animated pilots in a single year. That kind of volume and pace gave her an insane crash course in fast, creative, digital-first production, which eventually leads us to January 2013, when she joined forces with two random guys in North Carolina, and together, they make history. When Stevie joined Rhett Link, things were still pretty scrappy. GMM was still being filmed in Rhett's garage in North Carolina, and is not nearly the show we know it as today.
So they had one employee who would shoot and edit GMM, and they would come up with a topic as they say as they drove to work, but it was literally in Rhett's backyard. So I guess like as he walked into his backyard, and they'd be like, this is what we're gonna talk about today. And so this was just like a side project for them. So I was just there, and they were like, hey, you could watch this if you want. I had no idea what it was. It was for their second channel. Maybe tens of thousands of people were watching, but maybe not. Maybe it wasn't that many, because it was definitely just like a daily vlog type of thing.
And I'm sure most of you hardcore Mythical Beasts know the story Stevie has told, where one of her first days working for the guys, they got into a legitimate physical slapping fight.
Dang it. Slap each other in the face.
I just shaved I got rid of my protective layer.
I'm taking my glasses
What
off.
are the chances that I just got rid of my... Hold on, who's going first? Same time?
Same time. 3, 2, 1.
Hey!
What? Stop, don't hit me.
Which made her question what she was even doing with her life.
But then they slapped more, and it was like a physical yelling fight. And I was like, oh my God, I think I may have made the wrong decision.
Yet, she stayed on board. She started out working on the Mythical show, which premiered in April of 2013. And for those who don't know, this was a very early spin-off of GMM that, well, basically just was GMM but filmed in front of a live studio audience and had guests and skits, kind of like Rhett Link's personal SNL. And while I could deep dive just this whole show and lots of other Rhett Link projects, this video is about Stevie. Although you should like and comment if you want videos and other Mythical stuff. The Mythical show went on for 12 episodes, and well, Stevie hated it. She would go on to talk about how this just wasn't the kind of stuff she wanted to work on, and that the whole thing just felt like a Rhett Link secondary project and not a real production.
Honestly, I was not into it. I didn't want to produce that type of content. Slapping aside, but like I didn't want to produce, we're gonna sit in front of the camera and talk type of content. I was there to make a show. I eventually did produce major music videos and sketches for them, and I wanted that like premium glossiness, and I just thought like this is just a silly side project and I don't really need anything to do with it.
Although the Mythical show performed pretty well analytically, so they trusted Stevie and let her go on to produce higher budget things like Commercial Kings, which was the thing that kind of broke Rhett Link through the entertainment doors. But more importantly, she got to produce and sometimes fully create music videos, which is what broke Rhett Link into the mainstream. I mean, even today, I still sometimes see people share Rhett Link graduation song, having no idea what Mythical even is. I mean, the popularity of these music videos cannot be overstated enough. And this was the big thing that pushed all three of them on their way to becoming YouTube legends. In a time when most people were making parody music videos or funny lip sync videos, Stevie was the force behind fully produced music videos for totally original songs that were strictly meant for the internet and nowhere else. I mean, nothing like this had seriously ever been done before, and it's exactly what she wanted. The Hollywood vibe and aesthetics of a big production studio and a team, but with the laid-back chillness of a group of people that are just doing what they love, which is what made her, and a lot of us, stick around. Due to the success of these music videos, GMM was able to move out of Rhett's garage into a semi-legitimate studio where they hired writers, built the iconic set, and shifted GMM from a casual vlog-like show into a proper daily show with structure.
And I remember having the conversation of being like, okay, if I'm gonna produce Good Mythical Morning, we gotta make it a show. We gotta do something here. Like, can we give it a set? Can we actually come up with things to talk about that you're not walking to your backyard and, you know, make more of a show? And so that's when it got interesting to me.
And while Stevie might not have been the one writing or decorating, she was the one enforcing all of these. Meaning, without her, who knows how long Rhett Link would have stayed doing all those small internet shows or how successful they ever would have become. And on September 3rd, 2013, for the season 4 premiere of Good Mythical Morning, we get our first ever Stevie produced episode. Well, maybe not totally produced, but I mean, definitely worked on. And you can tell. I mean, literally just going through the old playlist, you can see the clear change with how the thumbnails look right away. And also the iconic set in every background. A lot of the format you still see today, the segments, flow, the way the episodes feel, trace back to decisions made in the early years by Stevie. Starting the next year in June 2014, Stevie would get her first fully headed spin-off project, the Wheel of Mythicality animated series, which was exactly what the name suggests. An animated version of their wheel endings, all of which were done by Indamas. And for modern GMM fans, they might be like, okay, that's kinda odd. But a few things you gotta understand here. One, this was the golden age of animation on YouTube, so they pretty much just wanted to capitalize on that. But two, the old school GMM wheel endings used to be way more chaotic and unfiltered. But that was, again, just the vibe of YouTube back then. The show had a 35 episode run, with the final one airing in December of that year. Over time, her role grew way beyond just producing. I mean, we can literally see this on her LinkedIn page, not to be too weird, where we can infer that after the Mythical show, she probably continued working really hard on GMM, helping it get better and better, which in turn would lead to Rhett Link making her Vice President of Production and Development in April of 2016. Which is the same month she premiered her first fully led spin-off show, which we'll get into much more later, don't worry. And again, she did the same job for about 2 years before she finally got the big promotion that shifted everything, becoming Chief Creative Officer for Mythical from January 2019 to October 2025. 6 whole years she was running everything. Actually insane. Before finally ending her run as an executive producer and talent in her last few months at Mythical. Now, obviously, there's a lot of moments in history where Stevie has talked to the guys in episodes or had to direct and or judge them for games, but the iconic Stevie narration that became such a center point of the show didn't start until season 14 from what I could tell. And as time progressed, so did the amount we heard her, with Stevie eventually reading rules, introducing segments, and even reacting to the guys with some charming comedic whips.
Okay, men with balls, today you'll be tasting...
All while delivering that calm, dry, perfectly timed commentary that contrasted Rhett Link's chaos so well. That voice became iconic. The will it intros, the sassy reactions, the way she kept everything moving. It turned her into a character even though she was mostly behind the mic. And with it, fans just wanted more and more Stevie content. But besides being the main force behind Good Mythical Morning, Stevie was working on lots of other projects too. Let's talk about that. See what I did there? Starting with Good Mythical Crew, one of, if not the first fully led Stevie spin-off project. Good Mythical Crew was a show that came out on Saturday, which is a pattern you're going to see a lot here, and was, well, about the crew. Executively produced by Stevie, the show follows the crew throughout the week as they get ready for all of the GMM episodes they're filming that same week. It was a pretty cool concept, and hot take, I think it was the best GMM spin-off series ever. I mean, I'm a little biased because this was like during my formative years, and I was also really parasocially attached to the crew at this point. But even with that being said, I genuinely thought it was just so good. There were so many mini reoccurring segments within this show. Like my favorite, 10 Feet Tall, and I need to calm down. I'm getting ahead of myself. Again though, if you want to deep dive into any of these, make sure to let me know, because I can get passionate about this stuff, man, I swear. Although, while we're here, does anyone know what's up with these 11 hidden videos from the Good Mythical Crew playlist? Is this like lost media or what? But I digress, because this is about our girl Stevie. And without her, none of this would be possible. Good Mythical Crew started on April 9th, 2016, with the final episode airing March 18th, 2017. Now let's move on to Let's Talk About That, aka LTAT. On August 25th, 2018, GMM premiered a new show, LTAT, which was a Saturday show that was like half GMM, half podcast, except Stevie would host every episode, with her guest being Rhett Link, with the gag being like she was introducing somebody new every episode.
Today's guests are tall, funny, and not my dads. Please welcome Rhett and Link.
It was basically just a laid-back variety talk show, pretty similar to Good Mythical More vibes, except Stevie was on camera and led all the conversations. The show lasted 54 episodes, ending in December of 2019, yet it gave us many great classic moments.
Whoa, you got so much hair!
And lots of behind the scenes and extra stuff. And it's definitely something the fans were very upset about when it ended. So much so that in 2023 and 2024, they came back with a 1-episode special of LTAT for the Mythical Society, which is like their premium subscription service. Another thing Stevie did for Mythical was co-host the Best Friends Back Alright podcast, which came out during the height of Mythical podcasts. The premise was her and her high school best friend, Niagin Homafier, sorry if I said that wrong, who she hasn't spoken to since high school, aka 15 years, reconnect online over some microphones. How sweet. No, it is actually really cool. I just also look at this thing as a creator and I'm like, how much of that is actually true? Regardless, it started on March 18th, 2022, and ran for 34 episodes total, with the first half of the show being the girls talking about high school memories and nostalgia, and eventually turning into them just talking about whatever the heck they want. And clearly, I wasn't the only one thinking this premise was a tad odd, as the only comment on this podcast I found on Spotify was this. But I seriously didn't think it was a bad idea. And truthfully, I didn't ever listen to it until doing this video, but I kind of liked it. I mean, they talk a lot about 2000s culture, and the lesbian versus straight girl mindset leads to some pretty funny moments. And I know they made this apart as Niagin was living in Atlanta during it, but I still think it would have benefited way more if there was a video version. I mean, you can literally only find these on Spotify or Apple, and maybe it's just me, but I like watching podcasts. which I know technically makes it a talk show, don't come at me. And nevertheless, the podcast would meet its demise on December 16th, 2022, and the two never spoke again. No, I'm just kidding. And finally, one of, if not the last spin-off show Stevie gave us, was Good Mythical Weekend, which premiered July 15th, 2023, and again was a Saturday show. Originally being a one-time spin-off for Good Mythical Summer of Season 22, the show's premise was that Stevie would host games with different crew members playing, usually in a red team versus blue team setup. It was more low budget than a GMM episode, but still felt well produced, like kind of more similar to a Smosh Games or Smosh Pit style video. The show was also notable for it being a lot more raunchy than GMM, which says a lot, I know. But seriously, they were letting dirty jokes fly left and right here.
Just think about it being a nice holiday dinner with your family. They're always at the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be a white holiday thing. Black people don't do that.
Yeah, probably a white Southern holiday thing. You're right. That's true. My bad.
Yeah, it's usually a white person saying, I make a mean deviled egg.
They do. You're so right. I've heard that so many
I'm going to be honest. I have said that.
And then they pull you aside and whisper a joke to you.
Don't tell your dad.
The first run ended on September 2nd of the same year, but again proved to be popular enough to get a comeback on April 4th, 2024, with it pretty much being a mainstay all the way up until Stevie's exit, with the final Good Mythical Weekend airing December 20th, 2025. During its second run, they threw away the teams gimmick and instead kind of just did whatever they wanted. It almost felt like it was an amalgamation of rejected GMM ideas or something. And not in a bad way, like, oh, this episode sucks, let's not air it. But more like, I don't know how much YouTube's gonna like that. Which just gave the show tons of classic moments. And after all that, we would get literally one more month of GMM before Stevie announced her leave on February 13th, 2026. And while I know it was fun going through all those memories, we gotta hit the real side too. Running daily content, managing teams, dealing with the algorithm, the constant pressure of keeping a show fresh for over a decade, plus a personal life, I mean, it adds up. I mean, just in 2023 alone, this was everything she was personally in charge of. That is actually insane. I sometimes get overwhelmed with just doing this channel, plus wanting to work on music, plus like having a full-time job and supporting me, myself. Imagine being in charge of 20 different projects at once, being the lead oversight for all of them. If anything goes wrong, messes up, guess who is the first one to get called or blamed? Stevie. I mean, I seriously cannot even imagine the stress. Like, my brain just can't fathom it. By the end, she was open about the stress and wanting to focus on family and creating content on her own terms. When she announced she was leaving in February 2026 and her last episode was the 3000th in March, a lot of fans felt the send-off was kind of rushed and low-key. It got folded into the big episode celebration instead of getting its own proper moment. For someone who helped build so much of what GMM became, it felt like the exit did not fully match the impact, leading to lots of pretty dumb speculation and rumors across Reddit and other social media forums. The only thing I think holds any teensy bit of weight is I did see on Reddit around the same time Stevie announced her leave from GMM, she did give a coworker a pretty terrific recommendation. I mean, honestly, that thing is crazy. But I mean, I really think that's just probably a weird coincidence, and that the main reason she wanted to go was the reason she said, to focus on family. I mean, she's been in a serious relationship for years at this point, and with that kind of workload we were mentioning earlier, it must be hard to get to do personal stuff and work stuff, even if she does love it. And at some point, I'm sure it becomes kind of painful to see your bosses grow and achieve all of their dreams and get to go on trips with their wives and raise kids and like actually have a family, while she's constantly had to make sure things are always running. And then see that same boss have a serious health risk that could at any random moment jeopardize everything she has worked for the past decade and then some. And like I said, I think she truly did love it, and I think she truly was paid well for it, which is why I also think that since around the time of her departure announcement, Rhett Link started canceling a lot of extra spin-off shows and projects. Like they ended Ear Biscuits, Good Mythical Weekend, and they even sold off Sport. Because in the end, Rhett and Link weren't running any of those. Stevie was, and she was doing it better than any other YouTube project manager, producer, whatever you want to call it, is ever going to do again in YouTube history. I mean, yeah, we got channels like Mr. Beast, but that guy recycles employees like they're scrap pieces of paper. Mythical never did that. It found Stevie and trusted her to lead this. If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that most of what you see from Mythical was not because of Rhett and Link, but because of Stevie. Rhett and Link were just the puppets and clay molds for her to use to create all these other giant beasts on YouTube. And now that she's gone, so was all the stuff that she created. Not Rhett and Link, her, Stevie Wynne Levine. And I, at least, will never ever forget that.
Every single day, I am reminded of how lucky we are to have the crew that we have, because they are not only the most talented people and hardworking people, but they're actually enjoyable people to be around, and they like what they do, which a lot of people can't really say that about their jobs. So, or maybe they just tell me that they like what they do, but I'll take it.
Looking back, Stevie Wynne Levine was one of those behind-the-scenes people who quietly shaped way more than most viewers ever realized. She helped take two friends making videos and turned it into a legitimate media company with its own culture and identity. Her voice, her taste, her leadership, and her commitment to making things feel warm and consistent, even when the content was unhinged, I mean, that stuff stuck with people. She proved you could be a huge part of something massive without even needing to be the face of it every single day. And even if her departure didn't get the big ceremonial moment a lot of fans wanted, what she actually built is still there in the DNA of the show and in how a whole generation of creators approach long-form, personality-driven content. She helped make something that felt like it mattered to a lot of people throughout many different internet eras without ever losing steam, only gaining it. That's real work. Right now, GMM is still going, but it just feels different without her steady presence. With Mythical Kitchen slowly, yet surely, on its way to becoming the most watched Mythical channel daily, Spork got sold off recently, and it truly feels like the end of an era for the version of Mythical a lot of longtime fans grew up with. Stevie said she's focusing on family and creating her own stuff, which as of creating this, still hasn't happened yet, but I'll be happy when it does. But if her recent social media posts prove anything, it's that she does really seem happy and is still very, very grateful for all of the Mythical Beasts. But that's just how I feel. What are your guys' favorite Stevie moments from GMM? Do you feel like her exit got the respect it deserved, or did it just feel too quiet? Make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love reading and interacting and reacting with you guys. And if this got you wanting more deep dives into stuff from our past, make sure to like and subscribe so more of them pop up on your homepage. And remember, anything can be special, it's just how you look at it. Peace out.
You know what day it is? It's Thursday. And Thursday.
Clap along. Me, keep it going.
You know what day it is? It's Thursday. Thursday.